So hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and I am the host of the Happiness Telesummit. I have a very beautiful, exciting, and energizing guest with me today, Katherine McIntosh. Welcome, Katherine.
Hi, Erica. Thank you.
I am so glad you could join us today, Katherine. Katherine is a business coach. She is an access consciousness facilitator. She has crazy, wild energy, and she likes to challenge reality. She is a body performance coach. She's worked with world changers who are ready to take their revolutions global. She's got a tenacious entrepreneurial spirit, and she has built businesses from the ground up. And you know what I love about you, Katherine, is I just never know exactly what's happening. Like, I'm just not sure what you're going to teach next, or what right? Right? Like, it's just so much fun to be around you because I'm just not sure what you're going to cook up next. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, that's so appropriate because I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next, right? You're joking. Last night I created a new class that just started last night, and I've had the title in my awareness for 6 weeks, and my team had trouble like getting the energy of it, and I was like, please just it didn't make any logical sense, the wording, and I was like, believe me, I have a method to my madness. And then what came out of my mouth last night was, I was like, I knew that information was in there, so even I don't know sometimes, Erica.
Oh, good. Well, that makes me feel better. So, Katherine, I'd like you to share with the listeners some insight into happiness and kind of expansion and happiness and sort of body awareness and whatever else shows up, because I think right now we have listeners who are pretty open to learning some new things.
Cool. Well, I love that, and I love bodies. So, our bodies actually desire to be happy, right? Like, don't tell anyone. Don't let the cat out of the bag. But our bodies actually desire to be happy, and so our body's like, it's like a dog, right? Like, what are we gonna do today? What are we gonna do? Are you gonna take me for a walk? What am I gonna eat today? Oh, and like the body just wants to be said hi to. Like, hey, I know you're frothing at the mouth. Hi. Do you want to go for a walk? Would you like some food? How can I contribute to you? And so this idea that we have to create ourselves as being happy rather than allowing the body to actually contribute the joy. It's like if you have a dog and you are madly in love with your dog, you don't tell the dog to go away when it wants to, like, love up on you, right?
True.
You don't tell a lover that you haven't seen in a long time to go away because it wants to love up on you. You're like, oh, yes, come, thank you. And the body is the same way. It's actually, if we get out of our thinking mind, it actually desires to choose joy and ease every day.
That is so beautiful. So maybe just in the spirit of that, what messes people up?
Judgment.
Okay.
Judgment.
Oh, that made me think of something that you did. I think you did something. You did a judgment-free challenge. So, yeah, what was that? Tell us what that is.
So I did, about a year ago, I created something called it's taken many different names, but it's now being called the No Judgment Diet. And it was this place where I saw that I was using the mirror to literally barrage myself with judgments that weren't actually true. And when I was doing that, it literally was creating this, like, place where I couldn't be myself. I wasn't happy because I had to buy that my judgments were real. Right? And so what I did is I took people on this 30-day challenge of what it would be like if they saw that their judgments weren't real. So judgments about their body, judgments about their money flows, judgments about their relationships. And as I was doing this program, Erica, what happened in my life is as I got out of the judgment, right, as I started to go, oh my gosh, judgment isn't real, I began to create a six-figure business. I had all this space to enjoy my life, to enjoy eating bacon, to enjoy my body, to enjoy like all of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was taught in this reality that judgment was the way to get what you wanted.
Right.
And what I discovered is when I got out of judgment, I got a lot happier. I made more money. I had better relationships. I had better friendships. I just, like, everything in my life got better. So judgment, getting people out of judgment.
That's so beautiful. You know, one of the things Katherine and I decided before we got on this call today is that we would share with our listeners some tools for happiness that kind of give you a taste of the space of being and the space of energy. And I was blessed to take a class from Katherine at the very tail end of 2014. And so I loved what you taught me about space. And I don't know if all of our listeners have really tuned into what that means. And maybe just give us some of the tools about that and kind of what, not even, I'll let you talk for a while, even what is possible when you are willing to be in that space.
Yeah, and it's like if we could think, I love that question, because if we could think our way into what we think is possible, we're still limiting the space that's available. Right? So there's still limitation, and so the whole concept is to actually allow you, your body, your being to step into space and then see, right? Like if you go on a vacation, you don't have your daily routine mapped out for you. You're actually willing to be surprised by what shows up. So it's the same thing with our bodies, it's the same thing with our businesses, it's the same thing with creating, is if you're willing to be space. So here's the thing, there is no space in judgment. Judgment has a density, it has a solidity, it has a form, it has a structure. And that structure is designed to make us wrong, right? And when we were talking earlier before we started, it's like one of the secrets is you can't get it wrong.
I love that.
Like,
I love that. I have to tell you, this is funny. I went to a group of 8th graders recently, and I was talking about writing and books, and I go, I want to tell you, because I had them do a little storyboard, I go, you can't get it wrong. No one's going to grade it. In fact, this is your notebook. No one's going to look at it. And I could feel this palpable, it was like a release. When I couldn't get it wrong, right?
That's the space. When you just said that, it was like, that's the space. And when we're functioning from space, it's like floating in waves. There's no thought, there's no form, there's no structure, there's no calculation. And so what I've discovered in the space is that there's only room for creating. Now, you can create crap if you really want to, but when you're functioning from space, you have more like room to actually pull from the universe the pieces that will create something greater.
That is so beautiful. And I just want to ask you to be in the aha. And when you have this aha, what's next? How's that for a question?
That's what's next. It's like, because what we do is when we're not in an aha, what we're doing, we're like, I kind of do this, like we're focusing. And when you're focusing, you don't have room to see all of or even receive all of the information around you. So in the aha, what's next is the actual receiving of the energy of the aha without trying to figure out what to do with the aha.
That's all.
That's it. It's real simple, right? No big deal. Well, and I'll just share from my personal life this morning, I had a giant aha that was really uncomfortable. I got really angry, and I was like, I had been aware of somebody in my life that was doing something that wasn't working for me. But I had my blinders on about how great they were. And so the aha for me was, oh, all of the awarenesses I was refusing to receive. So I kept like sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
And so literally all I could do, I was driving, I was like, oh, like shaking and making noises, but not thinking about what to do next, just literally receiving the flood of energy in my body. I got warm, I got hot, I got giddy, I started laughing. So I literally just was like, okay, I'm going to receive all the information energetically that I had been refusing to receive.
You know, it's so fascinating because even when you said that, and I know that sometimes you and I can get on a wavelength, and I felt your body release like in my body. Like
Yeah.
I could feel the release of the pressure of not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're not seeing something, then you're not seeing it, you're not seeing it, you're not seeing it, and it feels, it starts getting denser, right, and thicker, and it's like wronger, you know,
Right.
and it feels like you popped it, like it feel like I could sort of almost picture the release of that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I love this. I feel like we're just kind of having a nice conversation about sort of everything. But I do want to mention, since you're going to be an author in a book called The Energy of Healing, I do want to ask you to just give our listeners a little taste of some of the healing modalities, some of the healing ways that you have, and sort of some of your healing stuff that shows up when I ask you that question. Like, what is healing? What is the energy of that?
Oh, I love that question. So the energy of healing isn't fixing, but the energy of healing is space. So
What?
right,
No.
right. So
Is
because
everybody listening? Because she just blew our minds. Just if you weren't noticing. Thank you.
yeah, and you know, my point of view is that everybody on the planet is a healer. You might be a sexual healer, you might be a money healer, you might be a body healer, you might be a relationship healer. People usually gravitate towards you in your life because you have some capacity with healing, right? And so, but when you're healing, most people that are healing in an area that they don't even recognize they're healing in, they're functioning from space. They're functioning from, there's no conclusion. There's just like the question of what else is possible. Well, what else can we create? I hear that you have this conclusion that something isn't working. Healing is being space and not having a conclusion about what's actually going on.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I actually, so I was writing the chapter, and what I looked at is this place in my life where I had a conclusion that something was wrong with my body. And so I went to countless doctors, had MRIs, had CAT scans, had all this stuff. And the one thing that fixed it, Erica, was going to an energy worker. Now, this was over 15 years ago. Going to an energy worker, and they put their hands on my body for an hour and asked me questions.
Wow.
No doctor had ever done that. And in a 1 hour session, 50% of my symptoms that no doctor could figure out. I mean, I was sick, I couldn't eat, my stomach felt like it was gonna like explode. 50% of my symptoms were gone, not because she was trying to fix me, but because she was being space, and she was going underneath the symptom to actually find out what was going on. So in my definition of true healing is being willing to tell yourself the honest truth about your life. Right? Because how many of us actually like to hide what's actually part of what happened for me this morning was I was hiding what I actually knew I was aware of that I didn't want to admit to myself, because that would mean I'd have to make some pretty, significant changes in my life.
Right, right. That's kind of like my unhappy marriage.
Right.
It's like I didn't see it, and I was in it, and I didn't want to see it, and it was so funny because when I it was after I think my first Telesummit when I kind of it became more clear that I was like had left him, and people were like hurt. How come you didn't tell me you were unhappy? It's like, oh honey, I didn't walk around for 10 years saying I'm unhappy. I just didn't have the awareness that I was shutting myself off. It was like I had just closed off the awareness of what's possible and had sort of denied it. And for me, it was really part of the generational wanting to stay married. It was like stay married over anything else, stay married over everything. That was my intention. It was like stay married, okay? And it was like, okay, so you guys don't even have a relationship. Like there's no romance, there's no love, there's no joy, there's no sex, and none of the stuff that some people get in a marriage was in my marriage. And I went, when I woke up and I knew it was over, Katherine, it was this unbridled joy of spirit. And people were like, how can you be so happy in a divorce? And even he was like, how can you be so happy you're divorcing me? I'm like, oh my gosh, it was the awareness that showed up. And I have to tell you, it was, when I look at it now, it's like, it's interesting when you look at like the pre-awareness, right? Because once you have the awareness, you have it.
Mm-hmm. And you said something really key there, Erica, which is once you got the awareness of where you were shutting yourself off, that's the space that literally allows our body to get flooded with the joy that we've been cutting off. Right? So the awareness I had this morning, it looked like anger. It looked like intensity. But what was happening in my body was like all the molecules of my body were like yes, right? Yeah. And so joy is actually the release of energy that you've been stuffing.
I just want to really, there's something I want to pull from. And sometimes I do kind of, but I got a hit on when we make ourselves wrong. I think people with diseases, there's a whole self-help thing. I'm responsible for everything. And I feel like there's a wrong, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're getting it completely. So I don't know if I'm putting in words very well. But how do we let go of that stuff where we say, I'm thinking like a client I had 5 years ago is not as cool as the clients I have now. Sorry, clients I had 5 years ago. I love you too. But the clients I have now are like the coolest clients I've ever had and worked with in my entire life. So how do I forgive myself for those previous things? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I could respond to there. But
I know, that's all.
If you're looking to forgive yourself, how much pressure are you putting on yourself that there was something wrong with where you were functioning from 5 years ago? It's just that you have new awareness, so you're different now. So you have more awareness of how happy, joyful you truly could be. And 5 years from now, you might look back and go, wow, I didn't even know this was possible. Because you might up-level your happiness factor by another 1,000% in 5 years from now. But you're not going to look at this time now and say, oh, that was really stupid. You're going to go, thank you for the awareness of the journey. And, one of the questions that you asked was, how do we change that? And my quickest answer is laugh. Laugh at how cute you are. Laugh, because laughter heals the body, heals the earth, heals the planet, heals bodies. Like if Patch Adams, the movie Patch Adams with Robin Williams, right? His form of healing cancer patients was to bring laughter into their lives, and they may not have all healed their cancer, but they transitioned in a way where they knew that joy was possible.
I love that. So do you have an offer or something you'd like to share with the audience? Is there a download or something exciting they could do to hang out with you more?
Oh my gosh, I have so much amazing stuff going on, and I actually, I have so many free calls, but one of the things that you can do is go onto my website, KatherineMcIntosh.com, and if you go onto my blog, I know if you click on my link, you immediately get a 90-minute class that I did while working on bodies. I have radio shows that you can listen to. I mean, I have a free call today, but since it won't air, you guys will miss it, but you can probably go on it and get the download. Yeah. So there's so many ways to play with me, and I think it really is, follow your knowing. And I just want to mention the Hawaiians. I don't know if we've talked about this, Erica, but the Hawaiians have a definition of something that this reality calls a psychotic state, right? And so it's actually called ue, and it's laugh so hard you start crying, cry so hard you start laughing, right? And Hawaiians believe that every healthy adult should have one ue a week, right? Children have them 2 to 3 times a day, but in the DSM-4, because I studied masters in psychology, in the DSM-4, which is basically the psychology dictionary of diagnoses, it says that ue is a psychotic break that requires medication. And so it's so interesting because we're taught in this reality that joy is a wrongness.
Right.
I was with a friend when my son was 3 months old, and we were walking down the street, and these 2 teenagers were like blasting Bob Marley, and like singing and dancing, like blasting in the car. And she looked at me and she goes, "I wonder what drugs they're on." And my response was, "Yes, keep going, like keep having your joy." And I was like, drugs? That didn't even cross my awareness that they would be on drugs. They're just happy.
Right.
And so happy, people go, "Well, what are they on? What's wrong with them?"
Yeah.
And my invitation is, how do we change it? We laugh. How do we choose to be goofy and silly and obnoxious and wild and free, and constantly choose the space that creates the ease of joy.
Woo! Thank you, baby. And everyone go hang out on her website. I'll give you a link, get her free downloads, and learn from Katherine. I keep doing that. It's working for me.
Don't tell anyone, Erica.